I'm Vinnie Politan. The subject of my investigation is the OnlyFans murder case. It involves a good-looking young couple who were living in Miami who seem to have a lot in common with Johnny Depp and Amber Heard. A passionate but violent relationship. The only difference, this one ended with a fatal stabbing. Here's the story. 26-year-old Courtney Clenney is a social media star. She has over 2 million followers and has built a very successful career. While she's very visible on Instagram, she also has an OnlyFans page. This is a place where her fans can pay her through the app for access to videos and images you will never see on Instagram. She was so successful, she was living in a plush apartment in Miami where monthly rents are between $10,000 and $12,000 a month. She was living with her boyfriend, Christian Obumseli, until April 3rd of 2022 when Courtney used a knife to kill him. She is claiming self-defense, but prosecutors say she was the aggressor the day she killed Christian, just like she was the aggressor in this elevator 2 months before the killing. What was going on in this volatile relationship? Who was the victim and who was the abuser? And exactly how did that knife end up killing Christian? We'll take a closer look as we investigate the Courtney Clenney OnlyFans murder. These two absolutely toxic together. Yeah, there was passion and all of that in the relationship, obviously. But when things went bad, they went really, really bad. So the question here, you saw the images. Courtney Clenney covered in blood. Her boyfriend, Christian, stabbed in the chest, dies from those wounds. So what's going on here? Well, as we cover this case, we always reach out to everyone involved. And Court TV did, in fact, reach out to the attorney for Courtney Clenney. I want to put up on the screen what the attorney said about the case. We are completely shocked at Courtney's arrest based upon the clear evidence of self-defense in this matter. Obumseli attacked her and choked her that evening. Courtney had no choice but to meet force with force. Clear messaging from the beginning in this case that Courtney Clenney's defense was going to be self-defense. And the most important part about self-defense, because many times in these cases there's only 2 people there and only one of them's alive, which brings me to my very first question in this case. Let's take a look. And it's all about Courtney. What did Courtney tell police? What's her story? Police responded, they were there. You saw she was already covered in blood. So she's giving a statement right out of in the beginning of this investigation. And sometimes when you get to court, sometimes stories change a little bit, some fine tuning, etc. So to me, that's why this is such an important question. What did she tell police? So joining me tonight, retired DEA Special Agent, former Memphis police officer, Ted Golden is with us. Also joining us, board-certified forensic pathologist, Dr. Priya Banerjee. Great to have you both here. Thank you so much. I want to take a quick listen to Courtney Clenney in her police interview, Ted, because she spoke. She spoke more than once to them. Let's take a listen.
He ended up pinning me against the wall. And then, I mean, I said, like, choking me on the floor. It's just like, you're looking at my neck, and I was like, I mean, I'm not saying, like, choking me, like, you know, whatever. But, I mean, he had my, like, neck. Like, and this happened twice before, where I couldn't breathe, and I was on the floor. Yeah. I could not breathe. And I don't think that he was trying to kill me, but I was scared. And all 3 times I have been scared. So yeah, I'm on the floor, and he had me pinned and lets me up. I'm on the, get my mom on the phone, and I'm just trying to remember. Hey, my mom on the phone, and I remember she was standing like against the couch. Like we were obviously it was a big deal at this point. So this happened like over by the door and somehow moved like over in the living room. He was standing by the couch, facing toward the kitchen. I was in the kitchen. And then he just like, I could see like all the whites in his eyes, and he was like coming at me. And so I grabbed one of these knives. My mom got me for Christmas. I grabbed one of them. And I was like, I swear to God. I swear to God. It was just like, I mean, grab and be like, don't come anywhere closer to me. Because, earlier, that happened 2 other times I couldn't breathe. I'm sorry. I couldn't breathe. And it's very scary. And I just think, like, just like this kind of thing where I was saying, like, do you know if he's okay? If he's choking me and he's angry enough, he might, like, this is different, I think. But if he's, like, choking me or, like, pinning me or something and I can't breathe, he might go too long. So I grabbed my knife and I said, don't come anywhere closer to me. I had absolutely no intention of using it. I'm on the phone with my mom, and he's coming at me like he's going to grab either the phone or like the knife or something. And so I was just like, I was like, don't come any closer. It's coming at me, and I threw it.
All right, Ted, what she's describing there is being the victim of an attack. It's a messy scene inside that apartment. How do investigators approach this? How do you figure, getting her story, how do you figure out if her story makes sense, if she's telling the truth? What's the process that you have to go through, and what does it take to come to a determination of whether or not this is the self-defense she's describing?
I'm assuming that this is right after the incident occurred. I would get her checked to see if she had any drugs and narcotics in her system. Her speech is slurred. Her attitude is a little bit jumpy. Her conversation is inconsistent. She's repeating herself. So definitely would have checked to see what she had in her system. And then, of course, past behavior also determines present behavior. And given that there's several instances that occurred before, I definitely would look at the previous reports to determine, who was the aggressor in the past and what were the consequences.
Dr. Priya Banerjee, I want to play this from Dr. Kenneth Hutchins, the medical examiner, describing the wound in this case.
Based on the same observations, does it support that at least 8 to 12 pounds of force would have been used in order to create that damage?
In general, yes.
Now, based on the information you received that the defendant was alleged to have thrown this knife, do your observations support that?
I'm not an expert in knife throwing. If the person who supposedly did this is an expert knife thrower, and the knife is the type of knife that you can throw, I guess that could have happened.
All right, Dr. Priya Banerjee, we heard her story, and at the end she says, I threw the knife. Does that make sense to you? How do you investigate through the autopsy to figure out what it took to take the life of Christian Obumseli?
So, yeah, there's no accurate way, even from an autopsy, to say, it's going to take this much force. Obviously, that's not an experiment we can do. But you really need to put it into context. She is very erratic. And I deal with strangulation, non-fatal strangulation victims a lot. And she's very agitated, but she doesn't seem to have any injuries. Usually when you're strangled, you don't have a breathing issue. It's more of a blackout issue, right? So you're going to black out first physiologically as compared to an airway collapse. So that I can't breathe, that's often a misrepresentation of what's going on. So her story is flawed. And then I want to see what's injured in him. Does he have broken nails, evidence of a fight, any scratches on him? Anything, because he's supposedly going after her. We always take fingernails for that reason, but we know they live together. So the DNA is only mildly helpful.
Ted Golden, how important is the scene itself? We were seeing images inside of that apartment, that $10,000 a month apartment in Miami. What are your thoughts there about the analysis of that and what story it could tell you?
Actually, the blood tells you a lot. Where is it? Where does it trail to? Where did it start from? How many times was he stabbed? Like she said earlier, does he have any physical injuries to his hands where he might have been trying to prevent her from stabbing him? What position was the body in? Was he on his face or was he on his back? Where was the knife? Has she pulled the knife out or was it still inside his body? All those things are critical to determine, if what she's saying is true. And then, of course, the proximity of the knife to where she said she was. So you're on the cell phone, you're calling your mom, you're struggling with this guy who's strangling you, but at the same time, you could reach over and grab a knife from the kitchen, I'm assuming, and you're able to push this knife, throw this knife and strike a grown man. Now, my own personal experience, having witnessed someone having a knife thrown at them and hitting them, it's only going to penetrate so far. As a matter of fact, the guy that I saw got stabbed when the knife was thrown. He pulled the knife out of his leg and chased the guy who threw the knife at him. So all that would have to be taken into account. And given the pictures I'm seeing right now, it looks like there's more to it than what she's saying.
Dr. Banerjee, the subclavian artery is what was punctured here by the knife. What happens to a body when that happens?
Great question. So that is one of the major arteries that runs, or artery, it was artery, right? Not vein. Either way, those are major vessels. You can see I'm putting my two fingers at the clavicle, my collarbone, and they run right from the shoulder under the collarbone. Oftentimes we use it in the hospital to put a catheter there because it's such a large vessel that you can get a lot of fluids, medicines in. So obviously if either of those or both vessels are lacerated or torn completely because of the stab wound, you're going to bleed to death, which is very consistent with the crime scene film.
Dr. Priya Banerjee, Ted Golden, appreciate your insight and expertise. Thank you so much. Coming up next, where did she go after the stabbing?
Come on, Courtney.
Okay, I need to go to the hospital. I have to.
You gotta give us a statement.
That's fine, but can I go to the hospital?
After we done, yes. We're going to.
Can I stay by? Can I stay by the minute? I'll be right back, boys. I'll be right back, okay?
Did she ever believe that she was ever going to get away with it?
A renowned snake breeder is shot and killed at his breeding facility.
He was like the Johnny Depp of pythons. The guy was amazing.
Lindley recruited an old boyfriend to shoot Ben.
Michael got too nervous, so he handed her the gun and she actually killed him.
I did not want him dead.
If the devil was a person, I believe that was her.
Victim to Verdict with Ted Rollins. All new Sunday night, 8/7 Central.
Only on Court TV.
I was on the phone with her while I was trying to get Courtney. So if you can go in there and just see Aura, she will come and get them.
Let's go.
Okay, I'll be right back, boys. I'll be right back. No barking. I'll be right back. Be good. No barking. I'll be right back. Jesus Christ.
April 3rd, 2022. Courtney Clenney says goodbye to her dogs after she has stabbed Christian Obumseli. He's then taken to the hospital. He dies a little bit later. She doesn't know that she's killed someone at that moment. But do you remember that date I said, what was it? April 3rd, 2022. I want you to take a look at this. This is her mugshot when she gets charged. August 10th, 2022. So April, May, June, July. Like, time is passing, 4 months or so until she's arrested, which brings me to my next question, because we have the passage of time here. We have months. So, where did Courtney go after the stabbing? You've stabbed your boyfriend. He dies. So where do you go afterwards? Well, she didn't go to jail. Joining me, still with me, retired DEA Special Agent, former Memphis police officer Ted Golden, and also with us, clinical and forensic neuropsychologist and author of the book, The New Rules of Attachment, Dr. Judy Ho. Okay, I want to take a look at a calendar here so we can take a look at some of the places where Courtney Clenney went. Let's begin, and As I said, April 3rd, 2022, that is the date of this stabbing when Courtney stabs Christian Obumseli. Then we move forward to April 20th, 2022. Courtney and her father are at a hotel in Miami. This case has gotten some publicity, and they are confronted. Take a look.
I'll videotape her. Right now, yeah, you should go. Yeah, you should go. Because you just killed your boyfriend. Yeah, you did. Yeah, and yeah. Yeah, okay, cool.
Wow. All right, let's bring back in our guests, Ted Golden and Dr. Judy Ho. Dr. Judy, you saw the reaction there. I don't know what you would expect to happen. It was a very highly publicized case. Everyone knows that her boyfriend's dead. Everyone knows that she stabbed him, but she's walking around free, gets confronted there. What did you think of the little dynamic and the reaction there?
Well, I mean, Vinny, it's not unexpected that there would be some attitude being thrown around, like, why are you bothering me and why are you disturbing my peace? But at the same time, well, people are going to have a reaction because this case was highly publicized, that you're walking around free and somebody may have died in your hands and now at this point possibly premeditated hands. So I think that her reaction is sort of very, in a way, kind of not just indifferent, but almost like, how can you do this to me? How can you bother me while I'm out here with my dad? But has she not been keeping up with what's been going on in the news cycle and what people are maybe saying about her? Is it such a great idea to be going out in public at this time? You know, everything that you do, it's the court of public opinion, and that may end up playing a role in your ultimate trial and sentencing.
Let's move forward now in that calendar. We'll go back to our calendar, and we go to Thursday, June 16th, 2022. Courtney then moves back to Texas to be with her parents. That's where she's originally from. And there's an incident in Travis County, Texas. I'm going to read this to you. You're going to be shocked. A young man named, he's 18 years old, named Mahalo, began explaining that he was taking a walk through the neighborhood when he was approached by a female walking her dogs. That female's Courtney Clenney. The female disclosed to him that she was drunk and requested him to walk her home. Mahalo agreed, and they began walking together. Mahalo stated that the female made sexual advances towards him, trying to make out with him, which Mahalo stated he did not want to engage in. Mahalo ends up texting his father because he was uncomfortable. At this point, the father explained that the female became angry at his presence and began cussing him out. While the female was irate, she smacked the father on his left arm, then shoved him by the shoulders. She shoved her back. She fell down. She lost her balance. At that point, the father immediately called law enforcement. They ended up not charging her. But Ted Golden, looking at this behavior, is this something that investigators would be keeping their eyes on as they try to make the decision on whether or not to charge her with murder as she walks around free?
Definitely. This indicates that not only is she an aggressive person, but she's forward. In other words, she comes on to people. And clearly, if she was in a drunken state, it shows the aggression that she has when she was in a drunken state. So that, again, past behavior determines future behavior. And given that the circumstances aren't quite the same, but here's a stranger who she doesn't know, and she begins to assault him because I guess she's upset about the circumstances. So it would not look good for her in the court of law.
Now, we move forward on the calendar again to August 10th of 2022. She gets arrested at a rehab treatment center in Hawaii. She was getting treatment inpatient in Hawaii. That's where she gets arrested. And then a couple of weeks later, she's extradited back to Florida. Dr. Judy Ho, you've got the incident where she's trying to make out with this 18-year-old as she's in a drunken state. Police are called. She ends up in rehab. Where was this? Where was Courtney Clenney at this point? Psychologically.
Yes. Well, Vinny, I know that you was reading that passage, and towards the bottom of that passage, there was even a potential allegation of manipulation, that she was falling a second time to try to appear injured. So as Agent Ted already mentioned, there's this trail possibly of manipulation, her aggressing on people in various ways, trying to get what she wants. When she doesn't get what she wants, then she essentially finds some other way to appear, either as if she was the victim or in some other way gain sympathy. And it's really hard because when somebody struggles with alcohol and substance use issues, as this appears to be the picture here, they may be actually going to treatment because they really believe they need it and they're really trying to get better. But other times they're just going to try to escape other consequences. So you got to wonder what's going on here as she's in this rehab. Is she actually doing the real work because she feels like she needs the work? Or is she trying to paint a picture that, well, this is not my fault and maybe it's the alcoholism or whatever issue that they diagnosed me with, and then she couldn't really hold it together there either because she got arrested.
All right, we have about 20 seconds here, Doctor. Do the drugs and alcohol amplify who she already is, or is that making her into another person?
Alcohol and substances absolutely amplify any impulse control issues she already has. And I think that she probably already has that at baseline. And then with alcohol, that prompts it even further.
Big thank you. Ted Golden, appreciate it. Dr. Judy Ho. This story, complicated, but we know what the defense is. The defense is self-defense. Will the jury believe it? I'm Vinnie Politan. We'll keep digging for the answers as the investigation continues. I'm Vinnie Politan. We continue our investigation of the OnlyFans murder case. Courtney and Christian were young, good-looking, and rich. But that's only half the story. The other half is much darker, much deadlier. Here's their story. Courtney Clenney and her boyfriend, Christian Obumseli, were living a fast life. Money, fame, sex, and drugs. Courtney was making tons of money taking off her clothes and performing sexual activity on a subscription website called OnlyFans. Sometimes Christian would get in the act as well. They were living in the trendiest, most expensive section of Miami, but things were not going so well behind the scenes. Jealousy, arguments, and domestic violence fueled a toxic relationship that ended when Courtney put a knife into Christian's chest. She's claiming self-defense, but prosecutors say it is murder. This is a case with a lot of video recordings and audio recordings and text messages between these two. So as we investigate it, we're going to get a pretty good idea of some of the things that were happening in this relationship. Usually these things happen behind closed doors. In their case, sometimes behind closed doors, but on video. Other times in front of other people as well. Here's one incident. This is the day before the stabbing. Police respond to the apartment, the condo complex where they're living. Courtney is in the lobby with police. Take a listen to what she's saying.
What do you want? I want to be like, I don't want to be like exonerated, I guess, of like anything wrong. And I want him, okay, the police are here. I want a restraining order against Christian Obumseli.
She's asking for a restraining order. She's there in the lobby saying, I want a restraining order against Christian Obumseli. Well, that's not something that's issued by police, but that's what the conversation was about the day before the stabbing. Which brings me to my next question. In this toxic relationship, who was the aggressor in the relationship? Was it Courtney going after Christian or Christian going after Courtney? What exactly was going on here? Let's bring in our guest joining us, clinical and forensic neuropsychologist Dr. Judy Ho, and psychiatrist and forensics expert Dr. Yalda Safai. Great to have you both here. All right, Dr. Safai, I'll begin with you. The restraining order, she's asking for it a day beforehand. What do you think, what are you gleaning from this relationship if she's the one complaining the day before she puts a knife into his chest? Can we trust the words of someone who is looking for a restraining order?
Look, it's not always so black and white. I mean, I work in corrections, and I've seen many, many cases of both aggressors and victims being arrested for domestic violence disputes and being incarcerated as a result. It's not always obvious who the aggressor and who the victim is. It seems like they had a troubled relationship. It seems like, and we don't know 100%, that she was a victim of domestic violence. And I've seen this over and over again. Oftentimes, victims become aggressors eventually. If they tolerate the abuse for a long time, they eventually take matters into their own hands, or they snap, or they feel like they've had enough. This is not an isolated incident, and this kind of thing happens all the time.
And what's fascinating, Dr. Judy Ho, is this is the day before the stabbing. Now, we've seen other videos that have been released, including this one. Let's take a look at it. This is in February at their building. This is the elevator that goes directly to their apartment. She gets in by herself. Christian follows her in, and now we see what happens here. She's the one on video asking for the restraining order, but in many of these videos and text messages that we have uncovered, he's the one getting the brunt of it, Dr. Judy.
Yes, Vinny. And this video in particular, I think this shows one side of the story. We don't know if all of their encounters are like this, but certainly in this encounter, you see that he is just trying to hold her back or sometimes avert her aggression, right? But as Dr. Safai pointed out, oftentimes there's mutual physical abuse at some point in the relationship. That's certainly what she's saying in seeking this this protective order. And in fact, she's actually saying he's the main aggressor. Well, this video would be a counter to that claim. So at the very least, in at least one incident, she's not the one that needs protecting. It may be him, right? And that is going to be something that's really going to help everybody who is going to be part of this case trying to figure this out. You know, how much of this was really Courtney driving this, as well as some of the history of her manipulations that we've also learned uncovering the facts that we've encountered in this case.
Now, text message exchanges between the two. I'm going to show them to you right now, and we're going to have a couple of producers read them. Let's take a listen.
The crazy thing about all of this is that yesterday, when you stabbed me in the leg and you saw how bad it was hurting me and I couldn't walk, I couldn't do and you were telling me I wish I could have taken your pain away. I wish it was me and not you. The next morning, I still woke up happy. I still gave you a good day even though my leg was hurting because my girlfriend stabbed me. So you're telling me you can't do the same thing the next day and say, whatever happened last night, today's a new day, because that's what I do for you. I woke up happy. I took you to Vegas to get your drove right back, helped you shoot, drank with you, did blow with you, just so you're having a great day. And I'm doing all of this while my leg hurts so bad. Did I make you feel like for stabbing me? No, I just sucked it up and hope tomorrow will be better.
If you decide to get security, call. I will tell them exactly what happened.
Hey, I'm sorry. If it's okay, can I come up? I know you said 5 minutes, but I've been in the restroom, my nose is bleeding, and the back of my head hurts. Like really hurts. I don't know if it was your hand or the phone, but I'm really dizzy.
I'm putting your stuff up. You can come get it when I say you can. Go to first aid.
They have to take me somewhere. My shirt was off walking through the casino so I wouldn't get blood on it. Can you open the door, please? And you were pounding the phone on my head when I was done. It's okay, but can you let me in? I don't feel good, please. Courtney, can you open the door? I don't feel good and there's a bump on the back of my head. Can you just let me in? I'll be on the couch while you're in the bed. I don't want my nose to bleed, and going back and forth downstairs to the restroom is making me nauseous. I'm getting anxiety and you know how I get. Can you please let me in? And help me, please? We don't need to say a word. I haven't ate and running on 2 hours of sleep and drugs. Please open the door. Courtney, I don't feel good. Open the door for real. This isn't cool. I have a lump on the back of my head and I'm dizzy and anxious. And I can't keep walking up and down when my leg hurts. Come on.
Okay, Dr. Yalda Safai, what are you taking away from this relationship, from that exchange? I mean, apparently she stabbed him another time.
Yes, it's tricky because this makes it seem like he was completely the victim and she was the perpetrator. But the thing is, like Dr. Ho said, that video we saw and the text messages we saw are just a snippet of their lives. It's just one day of their lives. We don't know if this is how their interaction is all the time. We don't know if this is their, dynamic all the time. And I've seen this before where a perpetrator goes from pretending like they're the victim or acting like they're a victim to being an aggressor back and forth. So really, I don't think we can really judge based on just this one snippet, because here it makes it seem like he's completely the victim. And, that could not be the case.
Like they say in the commercials, Dr. Judy Ho, but wait, there's more. I have one more for you here. This is out in Vegas. Have some body cam video of Christian and Courtney because police were called.
More the story, like I was on the couch, like she threw the glass thing on my face. Then I went back to bed. I was like, why'd you do that? Okay, I go to the bed. I understand that she was mad, running for the house and doing anything else on the couch.
Do you remember throwing the glass?
No, you don't. But that sounds like me, so.
Dr. Judy Ho, she just said, I don't remember throwing the glass, but it sounds like me. Wow.
Well, that was probably a moment of honesty there. There's a little bit of insight, at least, that we're seeing here. And we already know that there may be a potential problematic use of alcohol, right? Do we know if it's alcohol use disorder? Do we know if she meets diagnosis? No, we don't. But she seems like she has a pattern of problematic behaviors and certainly aggression, especially when alcohol and drugs are mixed in. As we just talked about in the last segment, Vinnie, that is an impulse control disinhibitor. So she's already somebody that may have some emotional regulation issues, impulse control issues. You throw alcohol and substances into it, then there's the I don't remember, which of course could be truthful when you're drinking or you're high. But she also knows, yeah, that's kind of my pattern though when I get like this. And so this seems like this is something that she's been dealing with for quite some time. This is not a new behavior. It may not only be Christian either, because you've also shown some evidence that she was doing this with a stranger, that she was aggressing on a stranger and his dad. So this might be much more global than just her relationship with Christian.
Dr. Safai, do you have a take on why you believe they would stay together through all of this, all these incidents, police being called, all the violence and jealousy and name calling and throwing of things?
I think we all know that. We've seen troubled couples all the time that manage to stay together for years, and you look at them and you wonder why, right? So this is nothing new. A lot of times people who are in abusive relationships do develop a codependency on each other, and the abuse ends up working for them. So to a logical, normal person, you look at them and you say, why? Why stay with each other if there's such a pattern of abuse? But I think it's a lot more complicated than that, and it's a very difficult question to answer.
Dr. Judy Ho, do you think it'll be difficult for a jury to believe that a man like Christian Obumseli, who's obviously much larger than she is the victim in all of this?
I think the jury may believe it when you show some of these videos that you've been showing us, Vinnie, because when you look at his body language and how he responds to her when she is aggressing upon him, and even just in this last video clip that you showed where he's being questioned, he just slumped over, he seems defeated, and I think that people are going to have an emotional reaction to that. We know that males are abused in relationships, not much less than females, it turns out. I mean, there's the disparity, but I think also males report less. So I think that now that we're having more awareness about this problem being a global problem, that's not only one gender, and then looking at the body language and the pattern of behaviors, I do think that the jury might take sympathy on Christian.
Big thank you. Great insight. As always, Dr. Judy Ho, Dr. Yalda Safai, we really do appreciate it. Still to come. So, how much money was Courtney Clenney making?
So you have property in your apartment?
In my apartment, yes. And I paid $10,000 for my floor. He was paid zero for.
One of the most successful true crime TV shows ever.
This is crazy.
Now has a new home on America's original true crime obsession, 48 Hours, on Court TV. Coming up next on Court TV.
Donna Adelson is facing charges of murder, the death of her former son-in-law.
Terrible. Now that Donna has turned into a defendant, what's next for the Adelson clan?
The matriarch mastermind murder trial begins next week, only on Court TV.
He has belongings in there. He has belongings in there with you, right? He has property? Okay. So you have property in your apartment?
In my apartment, yes. And I paid $10,000 for my floor. He was paid zero for. Yes. So I will have, I really, like, I will happily, I don't care what happens. I don't want everything to do.
Let me ask you this, bro.
It's clear that Courtney Clenney in that relationship was the breadwinner. $10,000 a month in rent down in Miami. Nice place. It wasn't huge, but it was in like the trendiest spot you could be, right on the water. $10,000 a month. She's the one making the money. Christian, not so much. He may have been doing okay with some crypto work that he was doing, but it was Clenney with the money, which brings me to my next question, which is, how much money was Courtney Clenney making? Instagram, OnlyFans, she's an influencer. What does that mean? Let me bring in my guests. Joining me, entertainment reporter and host of Kinsey's LA Diaries on Talk TV, Kinsey Schofield is with us. Also joining us, former head prosecutor, New Jersey County Prosecutor's Office, partner at Bianchi Law Group, and a New Jersey Supreme Court criminal trial attorney, Bob Bianchi, who's been covering this story as well. Great to have you both here. Kinsey, give me the skinny here. Millions of followers. She's an influencer. OnlyFans as well. How much money could she make? Do we know how much she was making?
Absolutely. The state provided the court with financial records showing Courtney earned $966,692 in 2020 on OnlyFans alone, and $1.8 million in 2021. The state also argued these totals do not consider any additional unknown sources of income from other influencer or advertisement campaigns from other social media platforms. I don't know how many subscribers she had on OnlyFans because that page was wiped after this happened, but I do know she had 2 million followers on Instagram, and a post on Instagram with 2 million followers could have earned her a significant amount of money as well.
So this makes sense to you in the world of social media influence that you're making 7 figures.
It's crazy. I know it's crazy, but if you seriously consider what's happening in Hollywood right now, it's become kind of a shortcut here in Hollywood. You see, like, Baywatch stars that are quitting acting, stopping auditions, and just making their money on OnlyFans. One of the stars of The Sopranos said that her house was in foreclosure. She got her house out of foreclosure in 5 minutes after signing up for OnlyFans and starting to post content.
Wow. Wow. All right, Bob Bianchi, let me ask you, as a prosecutor, now you've got a defendant with lots of money, lots of resources. How does that change the game?
Doesn't change it at all. I think, in fact, I'm going to try to emphasize that as a prosecutor to the extent that the court is going to allow me, that this person had everything. They had a lot of money. The things that they were doing aren't necessarily flattering. To the extent that the court's going to allow that to happen, it happens. But of course, listen, Vinny, people that have money can afford good legal representation. So that obviously sets her apart from a lot of other people. But that said, you've got an overwhelming, cascading set of facts, both directly and circumstantially, that no amount of money, in my opinion, is going to get you out of.
So, Kinsey, as we evaluate what was happening in this relationship, it seems like the access to this level of money changed their lives to the extent that they're living almost like a fantasy life.
I mean, it tells you that money doesn't buy happiness, clearly. It became toxic, and I do think that I do think that the fact that she was earning so much more put her in a position of power in some way, and it probably made the victim insecure in some sense. And I'm sure that there was a power struggle sometimes, but she was very confident on social media. She loved herself, and I do think that that was one of the main reasons she was such a successful earner, was because she clearly fancied herself and was very confident.
Let's take a listen. Her father was in court talking about the money. Let's take a listen.
After April 3rd, Courtney was a mess. I didn't really trust her to handle her finances. One important thing was that her debit card for one of her accounts was not found, and we didn't know who had it or had access to her accounts. So we felt like the prudent thing to do would be to transfer the money into one of our kind of dormant accounts and then safeguard it that way, and then as she needed it, we could use it on her benefit. Well, the first wires were on April 12th of this year. There was one wire for $121,000, one wire for $1,013,000, and then subsequently in May, there was a $50,000 wire as well.
Bob, a big issue in this case also before the trial has been the defense and the defendant trying to get out on bond. And this is someone who actually has access to money and could post a bond. How does that work in our system? Are the bonds of people who have money elevated or escalated to make sure that they can't get out?
Yeah, Van, it's a great question. I mean, a lot of states are doing things differently. Some states, for example, in New Jersey, doesn't even require money anymore to be posted before you can be released. But in states where bond has to be posted, in other words, you have to come up with money or property in order to secure your release, they're going to look at a number of factors. And of course, the seriousness of the offense is going to be a significant factor. As a former homicide prosecutor, I had no one, not one, zero in all the cases I ever prosecuted that were ever released on bail. They sat in jail sometimes for years because the seriousness of the charge was so grave that the likelihood of their fleeing this jurisdiction was greater. When you compound that to your point, Vinny, that this person has access to money and they don't know where some of this money is, as a prosecutor, I'm going in there and saying, you release them, given the seriousness of the charge, money that either we know about or don't know about increases the likelihood of flight, and therefore there's a reason to keep her in jail pending trial. And I think that she's going to have a very difficult road, given the fact that she's been in there for years and there are no real changed circumstances to have a judge revisit this bail.
Kinsey, we have about 30 seconds here. If she's found not guilty and gets out, or gets out on bond, would she have any career as an influencer, or is that over?
Vinny, she will explode. You know the world we live in today. She will be a mega superstar. She'll be offered a reality TV show, the works.
All right. Big thank you to my guests tonight, Kinsey Schofield, Kinsey's LA Diaries, and Bob Bianchi, attorney extraordinaire. Thank you both so much. Now, let me just say, there's nothing wrong with an adult taking off their clothes and making money on the internet from other adults. It's 100% legal. Courtney Clenney made the choice to do it, and it changed her world. But it wasn't better. All the sex, all the drugs, all the money ended Christian's life. And now the question is, will it put Courtney behind bars for the rest of her life? This is a story we will stay on, because this is a story that doesn't end inside that courtroom. That story ends perhaps in a jail, or what happens to Christian's family. I'm Vinnie Politan. We'll keep digging for the answers as the investigation continues.